The day I came home in my army uniform, I didn't expect to find my 12-year-old daughter scrubbing the floor like a servant in her own house. I didn't expect her hands to be raw, her eyes empty, and my own family standing around her like they owned her. That was the moment I knew. This wasn't just betrayal. This was war. Before diving into the story, comment where you're watching from and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the latest stories. My name is Emily Carter, and for most of my life, I believed in two things without question: my country and my family. I served 8 years in the U.S. Army. I survived deserts that burned like fire, nights so cold they felt like death, and missions that taught me what real fear tasted like. But nothing I faced overseas prepared me for what I walked into the day I returned home. 2 years earlier, my husband, Mark, had been killed in a highway accident while driving back from a late shift. One phone call. That was all it took to turn my world into silence. I didn't even get to say goodbye. All I had left was our daughter, Lily, 12 years old, with eyes too big for her face and a smile that still believed the world was kind. After Mark's death, I volunteered for a long deployment. Not because I wanted to leave Lily, but because I had to provide for her. My family promised they would take care of her while I was gone. My mother cried on the phone and said, "She's safe with us, Emily. She's our blood." I believed her. Every week I called. Lily always said she was fine. But her voice got quieter, shorter, like she was scared someone might be listening. I told myself I was just being paranoid. Soldiers learn to push fear down, to focus on the mission. My mission was Lily. When my deployment ended, I didn't tell anyone I was coming home. I wanted to surprise her. I imagined her running down the hallway, jumping into my arms, laughing like she used to. Instead, I opened the front door and walked into a nightmare. Lily was on her knees in the living room, scrubbing the floor with a dirty rag. My sister was sitting on the couch scrolling through her phone. My brother's kids were throwing popcorn at Lily's back and laughing. My mother stood in the kitchen doorway, arms crossed, watching like this was normal. Lily looked up when she heard the door. For half a second, her face lit up. Then she froze. "Mom," she whispered. I dropped my bag. I didn't even remember taking off my boots. I crossed the room in 3 steps and pulled her into my arms. She felt smaller, lighter, like part of her had disappeared while I was gone. Her hands were red, cracked, bleeding in places. I looked up at my family. "What is this?" I asked. My sister shrugged. "She lives here. She helps out." "Helps out," I repeated. My mother sighed like I was the problem. "You're not here, Emily. Someone has to teach her discipline." That word, discipline, hit harder than any bullet ever could. That night, Lily slept curled up next to me, shaking like she was afraid I'd vanish again. And as I stared at the ceiling, listening to her quiet breathing, I made a promise to myself. They took advantage of my absence. They broke my daughter's spirit. And they had no idea what they had just awakened. Because the army didn't just teach me how to fight. It taught me how to plan. The next morning, I woke up before the sun. Years in the army had trained my body to move on instinct. Quiet. Careful. I slipped out of bed and stood in the hallway, listening to the house breathe. Every door, every step, every shadow. Lily was still asleep, curled into a ball, clutching the edge of the blanket like it might be taken from her. I brushed a strand of hair away from her face and felt my chest tighten. This wasn't the same little girl I left behind. This was a child who had learned how to be invisible. In the kitchen, I poured myself a cup of coffee and watched my reflection in the dark window. The woman staring back at me looked tired, harder, older. But her eyes still burned with the same fire that had carried her through war zones and midnight patrols. Footsteps came down the stairs. My mother entered, tying her robe, acting like nothing had happened the night before. "You're up early," she said. "So are you," I replied. She poured herself coffee and leaned against the counter. "We need to talk about Lily." I nodded. "Yes, we do. She's becoming lazy," my mother continued. "Disrespectful. If she's going to live here, she needs to earn her place." This woman had raised me, taught me right from wrong. And now she was talking about my daughter like she was a burden. She's 12, I said quietly. She lost her father. She lost her mother for months at a time. And you think the solution is to turn her into a maid? My mother's lips tightened. You chose the army, Emily. We stepped up. I almost laughed. Almost. Later that day, I took Lily out for ice cream. Just the two of us. I needed her away from that house. Away from their eyes. Away from their rules. We sat on a bench in the park, the sun warming our faces. For a while, she just ate in silence. Then I asked, Lily, what's been happening while I was gone? She shook her head. Nothing. I waited. The army taught me patience. Finally, she whispered, they make me wake up early, clean the house, watch the kids. If I mess up, Aunt Sarah yells. Sometimes Grandma says I'm just like Dad. Weak. My hand tightened around my spoon. Did they ever hurt you? I asked carefully. Lily hesitated. Then she rolled up her sleeve. There were faint bruises on her arm. Yellowing. Old. But still there. Something inside me snapped. Not loudly. Not violently. Just a quiet, cold break. That night, I didn't confront anyone. I didn't yell. I didn't threaten. I did what the army trained me to do. I observed. I watched how my sister used Lily as free childcare. How my brother treated her like she owed him something. How my mother controlled the house with guilt and silence. I started taking notes. Mental at first. Then real ones. Times. Dates. What was said. What was done. I checked bank statements and found something else. Mark's life insurance money. The money meant for Lily's future. My mother had helped manage it. Most of it was gone. That was when I understood. This wasn't just about control. This was about using my daughter as a resource. That night, after everyone went to bed, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop and my old army notebook. I pulled up legal websites, child protection laws, financial records, guardianship rules. I wasn't angry anymore. I was focused. Lily came into the kitchen in her pajamas and sat across from me. Mom, are we going to leave? I closed the laptop and reached for her hands. Not yet, I said softly. But we're going to make things right. She nodded, even though she didn't fully understand. As I tucked her back into bed, I whispered the same words I used to say before missions overseas. Stay close to me. I've got you. And for the first time since I came home, I felt something shift. They thought I was just a tired widow. Just a soldier who wanted peace. They had no idea I was preparing for something much bigger. The first move I made wasn't loud. It was quiet. The kind of move no one notices until it's too late. I opened a new bank account in Lily's name and changed the direct deposit for my army benefits. Then I froze the old account, the one my mother had helped manage. When my sister tried to use the card 2 days later, it declined at the grocery store. She came home furious. Did you mess with the account? She snapped, throwing her purse onto the table. I looked up from folding Lily's clothes. I protected my daughter's money. My mother stepped in. We used that for the household, Emily. You owe us for taking care of Lily. You owe her a childhood, I said calmly. That night, the house felt like a pressure cooker. Doors slammed. Voices dropped to whispers when I walked by. Lily stayed close to me, like my shadow. The next morning, my brother told Lily to watch his kids after school. She has homework, I said. She lives here, he replied. She helps. I stood between them. Not anymore. That's when the real war began. My sister started spreading stories, telling neighbors I was unstable, that the army messed me up, that Lily wasn't safe with me. A woman from the school called me into her office. We've had some concerns, she said gently. I slid my notebook across the desk. Dates. Bruises. Missed meals. Bank statements. Her face changed. Child Protective Services showed up at the house that Friday. My mother cried. My sister shouted. My brother blamed me. But Lily stood behind me, holding my hand. And for the first time, I saw something in her eyes I hadn't seen in months. Trust. That night, My mother confronted me in the kitchen. "You're tearing this family apart," she said.
No, irablia.
"I'm exposing it." She slapped the counter. "You think you're better than us because you wear that uniform?" I leaned in. "I think I'm better because I protect my child." 2 days later, I found Lily's backpack hidden in the garage. Her school books gone. Her clothes stuffed into a trash bag. My sister stood there, arms crossed. "She's going to stay with me now," she said. "You're not fit." That was the moment I stopped playing defense. I called my old army buddy, Rachel, who now worked in legal services for veterans. Within hours, I had a lawyer. We filed for full guardianship, emergency custody, financial recovery. My family didn't see it coming. Court papers arrived at the house like a bomb. My mother stopped talking to me. My sister started crying to anyone who would listen. My brother threatened me. "You don't know who you're messing with," he said. I looked him straight in the eye.
Ida.
"I live with them." The court date was set for 3 weeks out. 3 weeks of tension, of silence, of Lily sleeping in my room, clutching my sleeve in her sleep. One night, she whispered, "Mom, what if they take me away?" I held her close. "They won't. I promise." But promises don't stop fear. So, I prepared. I gathered witnesses, teachers, neighbors, bank records, medical reports, photos of bruises, copies of texts where my sister admitted using Lily for childcare because she's free. The night before court, my mother knocked on my door. She looked smaller, older. "You don't have to do this," she said. "We can fix it." I shook my head. "You had years to fix it." She walked away without another word. As I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, I realized something. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was about setting a line in the ground and daring anyone to cross it. The courtroom smelled like old wood and cold air. Lily sat beside me, her feet barely touching the floor, her hands folded in her lap like she was trying to make herself small. I leaned over and whispered, "You don't have to say anything unless you want to." She nodded, but I could feel her shaking. Across the room, my family sat together. My mother in her Sunday dress. My sister holding a tissue, like she was already preparing to cry. My brother staring at the floor. The judge entered. Everything went quiet. My lawyer stood first. She spoke about Mark, about my deployment, about a 12-year-old girl who lost her father and almost lost her childhood. Then my mother's lawyer stood. "She abandoned her child," he said, pointing at me. "She chose the army over her family." The words hit the room like a slap. I stood up before my lawyer could stop me. "I chose to serve," I said, my voice steady. "And I chose to provide for my daughter. I trusted my family to protect her. They didn't." The judge raised a hand. "Sit down, Sergeant."
I did.
Then the evidence came out. Bank records showing money moved into my mother's account. Text messages from my sister complaining about free babysitting. Photos of Lily's bruises. A teacher's statement about missed meals and falling grades. My mother started crying. My sister looked at the floor. The judge turned to Lily. "Do you want to say anything?" he asked gently. Lily stood up. She was small, quiet. But when she spoke, the room leaned in. "I just want to live with my mom," she said. "I want to go to school and play soccer again. I don't want to clean all day. I don't want to be called weak." My mother covered her face. The judge nodded slowly. "I've heard enough," he said. He ruled in my favor. Full guardianship, immediate custody, a financial investigation into the missing insurance money. The sound of the gavel felt like thunder in my chest. Outside the courthouse, my family didn't follow us. Lily took my hand, and for the first time in months, she smiled without looking over her shoulder. But it wasn't over. 2 weeks later, detectives showed up at my mother's house. The life insurance money had been traced. My sister had used it for credit cards. My brother for a truck. My mother had signed off on everything. Charges were filed.
My phone rang that night.
It was my mother. "You ruined us," she said. I looked at Lily, asleep on the couch with a book on her chest.
No, irablia.
"You did." I hung up. The news spread through the family, through the neighborhood, through the same people who had believed the stories about me. This time, the truth moved faster. Lily started school at a new place, joined the soccer team, came home with dirt on her knees and laughter in her voice. But some nights, she still woke up from bad dreams. So I stayed. I sat on the edge of her bed and reminded her where she was. "You're safe," I told her. "I'm here." And for the first time since Mark died, I felt like we weren't just surviving. We were building something new. A year passed faster than I expected. Our new apartment wasn't big. 2 bedrooms, a small kitchen, a couch that squeaked if you sat down too hard. But every corner of it felt like ours. Not borrowed. Not controlled. Not watched. Lily painted the walls with drawings of soccer fields and stars and a stick-figure family that always had 2 people holding hands. Me and her. I went back to work part-time with the Army's Veterans Outreach Program, helping families who were going through what I had. Women who felt trapped. Kids who felt invisible. I told them my story, not as a warning, but as proof. Proof that you can walk away from something broken and still build something strong. The legal case against my family ended quietly.
No dramatic headlines.
No big apologies. Just consequences. My sister had to pay back what she took. My brother sold the truck. My mother lost the house she once ruled like a throne. I didn't celebrate. Revenge didn't feel like fireworks. It felt like silence. One afternoon, Lily came home from school with a gold ribbon tied to her backpack. "I made the team," she said, breathless. "Varsity next year." I lifted her off the ground and spun her around, laughing like I hadn't laughed in years. That night, we sat on the balcony and watched the city lights blink on one by one. Lily leaned her head on my shoulder. "Mom," she said. "Yeah, do you miss Grandma?" I thought about it. "I miss who I thought she was," I said honestly. "But I don't miss who she chose to be." Lily nodded, like she understood more than a 12-year-old should. Sometimes I still get letters. Apologies written in shaky handwriting. Messages that say we didn't mean for it to go that far. But I learned something on the battlefield and at home. Intent doesn't erase impact. Late one night, Lily asked me to tell her about her dad again. About Mark. About the way he used to sing off-key in the kitchen and pretend he was a rock star. She laughed so hard she fell off the couch. And in that moment, I realized something. The real victory wasn't the court ruling. It wasn't the money being returned. It wasn't my family facing consequences. The real victory was this. My daughter could laugh again without fear. Before she went to bed, Lily hugged me tighter than usual. "You never gave up on me," she whispered. I kissed the top of her head. "I never will." Sometimes, people ask me if I regret what I did. If I regret turning my own family in. If I regret walking away. And I always give them the same answer. I regret trusting people who saw my child as something to use instead of someone to protect. Because family isn't about blood. It's about who stands between you and the world when things get dark. So if you're listening to this and you feel trapped, if you think you're alone, if you think you're too small to fight back, let me tell you something the Army taught me, and life proved to me. You don't need to be loud to be strong. You just need to be brave enough to take the first step. Because once you do, everything changes. Sometimes the strongest revenge isn't about breaking the people who hurt you. It's about becoming someone they can never control again. My daughter sleeps in peace now, and that's the only victory I'll ever need. If this story touched you, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to Revenge Files for more real, emotional stories of strength, survival, and justice. Your support helps these voices be heard. See you in the next story.
Fire.